Hey there paper geeks and glitter nerds, it's Senna the Crazy Geek Crafter, and in this video I'll be making 4 Christmas cards with this jumping deer. The deer is from the library in my ScanNCut, and I designed these 3 panels with the deer cut out, and then I used whatever space was left over to make more deer. But you actually only need the 3 card bases that I already did with the hole, and then the 3 cutoffs you get. So there will be no waste with this design. That was also why I tried to get in as many deer as possible, so I could maybe replicate one of the cards later on. I'm going to start out with the leftover deers from these panels, and I'm gonna mount it on this corrugated cardstock in red. But before I can get to that, I just had to check that I made the square around the deer on the panels big enough for the die cutting. Now I can't die cut the corrugated cardstock, but that's not a problem. I'm just gonna mount it directly to the card base, and I'm just deciding which way I want the lines, and then I use my Collel to glue the panel to the corrugated cardstock. I was unsure whether regular adhesive would actually work here in the long run. So I'm just gonna glue it on and then cut off the excess with my scissors. To get a good solid focal panel, I'm gonna glue these 3 deer together. If you didn't want a chipboard-like embellishment for your card, you could just make 3 cards and put 1 deer on each. Here I'm looking for a red pearl. Now I'm almost out, if I'm not out at this point. I was lucky I found the 1 pearl that I needed for this card. And why not make him into Rudolph if you can? For the sentiment, I chose these, or I'm actually only gonna use one, the bottom big one. It's called Merry Christmas. And I love that it's so big and bold. I have not actually tried out the scripty font yet. I am debating with myself whether to put it on the inside of the card. If you followed me for a while, you know that I am not that happy about writing the card. I just love making it. I had envisioned for this card that the sentiment be on Vellum. I don't know, I just figured it was gonna look great. So let's try that out with some white embossing powder, of course, to go with the white deer. So this is just gonna be an all red and white card. I keep my heat gun just off to the side, pointing right off the table so that I can use both hands to hold whatever I'm heating. I find that more assuring, because especially with Vellum, it has a tendency to flap around. To attach my elements, I'm gonna use the color glue again. Didn't trust the white glue for this one, especially since there'll be so little space to grab on here with the sentiment, since you can't really put adhesive all over the back when it's vellum. Vellum on corrugated cardstock, also troublesome. So I made sure to put something heavy on top on both the vellum and on the deer and leave it for quite a while to make sure that it was completely dry and wouldn't go anywhere. To get a stitching detail on my panels, I bring out my pierced rectangles from Simple and Basic. Now this was the hard part, finding the perfect backgrounds for these 3 deer, and I have super sped this up so you can see I go through every single piece of paper in my Christmas pattern paper collection, and even some that aren't especially Christmassy. And I finally made it. I picked 3 cardstocks for the back of the deer, and one is from the P13 collection called Christmas Treats, and then the other 2 are from the Norwegian Papirdesign. P13 is actually a Polish company, so we're staying in Europe. And here you're gonna see me make a tiny mess with my green embossing powder. It slipped off the paper and into my mini misty. Luckily it wasn't too bad. For some reason there were some clumps in the powder, and one of those fell off the paper. Also, a piece of the embossing powder is gonna fly off while I'm heat embossing it and make a, yeah, you see it there, a tiny mark below the J, so I'm gonna have to find a way to hide that later. I'm trying to contain the damage here I'm putting the powder back in the jar, and then I'm gonna take the mini misty and tip the fallen powder back in the jar as well. And this here is a piece of lint roller paper to just get the last tiny bits of powder off my misty. And with my sand eraser I'm trying to erase the mistake that happened, but I can't get it all the way off, unfortunately. But it is less visible now. Now there are a few places that didn't heat emboss quite well, so I'm gonna redo the heating. And I'm just bringing in some extra magnets to make sure that this stays in place. It's a bit warped from the heat. I'm not the best at heat embossing actually. I often get a lot of warping with my paper. I am guessing that's because I'm impatient and hold the paper too close to the heat gun or something. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. We all have those, I guess. If you've been to this channel and watched quite a few of my videos, you will quite probably have seen these strips. Since I keep all the strips I make of doubled up foam tape. Since they're double, they have backing on both sides, and therefore I can store them in my craft room. They don't stick to anything. And when I am done putting foam on this card base, I'm gonna put some glue, liquid glue on top, so that I can wiggle it into place on my card base. I'm gonna grab some pearls to hide my few boo-boos on this card. And it's gonna be quite a few pearls actually, since they've matched very nicely with the green text and the green pattern paper. So I couldn't really stop myself, to be honest. Now that I have had a full panel complete, I will repeat the process assembly line style with these two, because now I know exactly what I'm doing. Now you're gonna see me throw away this plastic spoon and exchanging it for a wooden one. I heard that the plastic and embossing powder doesn't really mix. It makes the embossing powder more static, so I've bought little wooden spoons for all my big tubs of embossing powder. Those I use most regularly. That is also why you saw me coat the end of the spoon in the embossing powder, so I know which one goes where if I should mess up my drawer at any point. had a lot of trouble finding a pearl that fit with the gold or the very pale green of the middle card here, so I ended up picking these other pearls. They're a bit bigger, but they're in the actual pearl color, and that went better with the gold than any of the alternatives I had. These pearls do have this adhesive back, but I don't trust it. That's why you saw me fiddling around. I was peeling them off the sticky back so I could glue them on properly. And they're all done, and I think they look amazing. I can't wait to hear what the recipient thinks of them. This was my video for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel inspired. And until next week, I hope you'll be having a good day, evening, or night.